The fire burns. It has been burning for days, for weeks, for time beyond counting. The flames are orange and yellow, with occasional flickers of blue at the base where the heat is most intense. The wood makes soft sounds as it releases its stored energy. Smoke rises and follows the curve of the ceiling toward the entrance, where it finds the cold air and disperses into the valley. Inside the cave, warmth holds. The fire is steady and familiar. The flames move in predictable ways, consuming fuel, producing heat, creating light. There is nothing unusual about this fire. It looks like yesterday's fire, and the fire from the day before that, and the fire from countless days before those. Nothing changes quickly here. The cave has been here longer than anyone can remember. The limestone formed over millions of years, laid down slowly, layer after layer, grain by grain, until water carved this shelter from the rock. The entrance faces slightly away from the strongest winds. Inside, the walls curve upward into darkness, and the floor has been worn smooth by countless feet, countless seasons, countless fires. The family has maintained fires in this cave for generations. Their parents did this. Their grandparents did this. The cave floor is layered with old ash, compressed into thin strata that mark many winters. Each layer is the remainder of ordinary days. Nothing changes quickly here. It is late autumn now, turning gradually into early winter. The change has not been sudden. The days shortened a little at a time. The sun's path lowered slowly across the sky. Outside the cave, the first snow has begun to settle on the valley floor. Not a storm, just a quiet accumulation. Snow in the morning, thinning by midday, freezing again overnight. Nothing needs to be solved. There is no problem waiting for resolution. Winter is coming, as winter always does, and the fire is burning, as it always has. The fire burns. The light outside fades gradually. The sun sets earlier each day, but only by a small amount. The difference cannot be felt from one evening to the next. Only over many days does it become noticeable. The fire continues to burn. This is simply how things are. Nothing changes quickly here. The cave extends back, deeper than the light can fully reach. The hearth sits where smoke can escape, but wind cannot reach directly. The air inside is calmer than the air outside. The cave holds warmth differently than the open valley. Heat spreads along the stone. It is absorbed by the walls, stored, and released back slowly. Even when the flames are low, the stone holds memory of the day's heat. The stone holds warmth. Outside, the world changes in barely perceptible ways. Ice is forming farther north, year by year, century by century. The valley itself has seen colder winters and warmer winters, wetter springs and drier summers. But these changes occur across lifetimes, across generations. Within a single winter, within a single life, patterns feel eternal. The family does not count days or name months. Time is marked by the fire, by sleep and waking, by the presence or absence of light, by the depth of snow outside, by the amount of stored food remaining, by the feel of the air in the lungs. Breath in, breath out. Winter is not a concept to analyze. It is the reality that arrives, that must be lived within, that will pass in its own time. The fire burns. Nothing changes quickly here. Night does not begin with a moment. It begins with a gradual thinning of light. The gray outside dims. The cave mouth becomes a darker shape against darker air. and inside, the amber circle of the hearth becomes the center of the world. The fire is not a roaring blaze. That would be wasteful. This is a bed of banked coals, a steady organism of heat, a low, constant glow covered in fine ash. The ash is not only waste, it is a tool. The ash is a tool. It slows the burn. It lets the fire sleep without dying. A watcher sits at the edge of the hearth. They do not pace. They do not fidget. Energy is stored, conserved, protected. Every unnecessary movement is a cost. The watcher's eyes adjust to the low light. They look at the topography of the embers. A small ridge of orange, a valley of gray. A brighter point where a knot of resin wakes briefly and then goes still again. This is the only movement in the cave. Everything else is slow. Nothing changes quickly here. The air within the shelter holds layers. Near the floor, where sleepers lie, it is cool but stable. Higher up, near the uneven limestone ceiling, warmer air lingers, trapped and fed by the slow release of heat from the coals and the stone. The cave walls are massive thermal bodies. They absorb warmth when the fire is strong, and they return warmth when the fire is low. It is not sudden. It is not a wave. It is a gentle presence, a barrier against the exterior cold. The stone holds warmth. The watcher listens. The cave has its own acoustic signature. The porous stone dampens sharp sounds. The chamber softens echoes. Low tones linger. High tones fade quickly. The fire gives a low, shifting sound. Occasionally, a coal collapses inward. The sound is soft. Sleeping breath is the main rhythm. 6, 7, 8 bodies. A chorus of slow exhalations, steady and reassuring. The sound means safety. The sound means the group is here. Breath in, breath out. Breath in, breath out. Nothing changes quickly here. Wind outside is muffled. Snow absorbs sound. The valley becomes quiet, and that quiet makes the interior feel even more protected. Deep in the cave, a single drop of water falls from stone. The sound is small but clear. It is not important, and yet it marks something ancient. It marks deep time. This dripping has been happening for thousands of years. It will continue for thousands of years. The watcher is only a brief presence in the stone's long memory. Time passes without measure. They shift their weight slightly. They reach for a long, straight branch used as a tool. They nudge a stone near the hearth, one of the sleeping stones. A river rock placed near the fire to absorb heat. It can be moved near a sleeper if the temperature drops. The watcher judges the heat radiating from it. It is sufficient. The stone holds warmth. Smoke rises lazily and seeks the exit. It finds fissures and currents. It twists upward. It smells of resin and ancient earth. It smells like safety. It smells like the boundary between the human domain and the wild. Nothing changes quickly here. The night stretches out, vast and unmeasured. The watcher blinks slowly. Their eyelids are heavy, but their mind remains simple and alert. As long as the embers glow, the lineage continues. The embers glow. The cold presses at the entrance. but it cannot enter fully. The fire is the shield. The silence is the blanket. The watcher observes. The fire breathes. The family sleeps. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. The watcher rises quietly. They move to another member of the family and touch their shoulder gently. The person wakes slowly. They sit up. No words are exchanged. The meaning is understood. The first watcher moves to their sleeping place and lies down. The second watcher takes position by the fire. The watch changes hands. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. The second watcher settles into position. They observe the fire. The coal bed is strong. The work of the first watcher was good. The fire does not need immediate attention. They sit comfortably. Their eyes adjust to the patterns of light and shadow. The cave is silent except for breathing and the occasional soft sound of the fire. The work is familiar. There is no urgency, no problem to solve. There is only the fire and the responsibility to tend it. A log shifts slightly as it burns through. The sound is soft but distinct in the silence. The watcher observes but does not react. The fire is stable. The fire burns. The breathing continues, slow and even. The sound of the group at rest. Breath in, breath out. Time passes without measure. The watcher adds another piece of wood. The motion is practiced and calm. The wood is placed across the coals. The fire accepts it. The routine continues. The darkness outside is complete. There is no moon visible tonight. Inside, the firelight creates the entire world. The watcher's eyes move from the fire to the sleeping forms, then back to the fire. Everyone is still. Everyone is safe. Nothing changes quickly here. The watcher shifts position slightly, stretches their legs, pulls a hide closer around their shoulders. The fire burns steadily. The fire burns. Breath moves in and out. The chest rises and falls. The body is warm enough. The watcher adds ash to the perimeter of the coal bed, banking the heat, controlling the burn. The ash is a tool. The routine continues. The night continues. There is no sense of it ending or beginning. There is only the present, the fire, the watch. Time passes without measure. The watcher remains present. The fire continues. The watcher rises and moves to wake the third person. The touch is gentle. The third person wakes, sits up, understands. The second watcher moves to their sleeping place. The third watcher takes position by the fire. The watch changes hands again. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. The third watcher observes the fire. The coal bed remains strong. The night is progressing as it should. The fire has been well maintained. They settle into their position. Their breathing is calm and even. Breath in, breath out. The cave is dark beyond the reach of the firelight. The stone walls absorb the light and warmth, holding them, radiating them back slowly. The stone holds warmth. The watcher adds a piece of wood. The fire adjusts. The light remains constant. The work continues. The breathing continues. The night continues. The routine continues. Outside, the wind is calmed. The valley is silent under snow. Inside, warmth holds. The watcher's eyes rest on the flames. The patterns are familiar. Orange, yellow. The occasional flicker of blue at the base, where the heat is most intense. Another piece of wood is added. The routine continues without variation. Nothing changes quickly here. The watcher thinks of nothing in particular. Thoughts come and go like the smoke rising from the fire. Present, then absent, then present again. The fire makes a soft sound. A small pocket of sap heats and releases. The sound is brief. The breathing of the sleepers continues, steady and rhythmic. The sound of safety. Breath in, breath out. The watcher adjusts the coal bed slightly, moving ash, ensuring airflow. The ash is a tool. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. The darkness outside begins to lessen. Not dramatically, not suddenly. Just a faint change in the quality of the shadow visible through the entrance. The third watcher continues their task. Morning is coming, but slowly. They add another piece of wood. The fire responds predictably. The fire burns. The watcher remains in position until the light outside is sufficient. Then they begin the morning routine, sweeping ash aside, exposing the coal bed, adding kindling. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. Morning begins before light. It always does during winter. The darkness inside the cave is complete, but it is familiar. Someone wakes slowly, not suddenly. Sleep ends and the body moves. The air is cool but not cold. The fire has burned through the night and now rests as embers beneath ash. The person moves toward the hearth. Their feet know the path. Their hands know where to reach. They do not need light to guide them. The fire will provide light. They crouch beside the fire pit. Knees rest on packed earth. Hands extend into the ash, feeling for warmth. The ash is soft and fine. It insulates the embers through the night. The ash is a tool. Fingers move slowly, sweeping ash aside just enough, not too much. Air reaches the embers gradually. A faint orange glow appears. The embers glow. The embers are alive. This is expected. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. More ash is moved aside. The glow brightens slightly. The heat rises gently. The person places dry bark fibers onto the coals. Thin pieces, light pieces. Pieces prepared long ago and kept dry. The bark smokes first. A pale plume rises. Then a small flame lifts. A small flame becomes two. Two flames become a steady little crown of heat. The routine continues. Small twigs are added, then slightly larger twigs. The structure allows air to flow. The fire grows incrementally. The cave begins to fill with light. Shadows loosen their grip. Shapes appear. The curve of the walls, sleeping forms, stacked wood, tools resting where they were left, hides folded where they were used. The person watches. Watching is part of the work. The fire must be observed, not forced. Time passes without measure. The sky outside lightens slightly. Others begin to wake, one at a time. No one speaks. There is nothing to say. Nothing changes quickly here. A heavier piece of wood is added, a dense log placed across the coals. The flames adjust. Smoke thickens briefly, then clears as the draft strengthens. The routine continues. Food from the previous day is brought near the fire to warm. A hide bag, a wooden bowl, a flat stone. The warming is slow. Waiting is part of the morning. Hands warm near the flames. Bodies turn slightly. Someone checks the woodpile. Someone watches the entrance. The first breath of the day becomes warmer in the lungs. Breath in, breath out. The first warmth spreads through fingers. The food is shared. It is eaten slowly. The fire continues to burn. The fire burns. Another piece of wood is added. This is how mornings are. This is how mornings have been. Nothing changes quickly here. The person tending the fire remains close long enough to be sure. The flames are stable. The coals are deepening. The log is engaged. The fire has entered its daytime state. They stand slowly, knees stiff from crouching. They move away. Another person sits closer now, not to work, simply to be in warmth. Outside, winter light becomes less dark. Inside, firelight becomes steady. The morning routine is complete. The routine continues. The fire burns through another morning. The smoke rises. The stone walls absorb warmth. The stone holds warmth. The family begins another day. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. As the fire stabilizes, a quieter task begins. Ash must be managed. Ash accumulates continuously. Each piece of wood becomes heat, smoke, and a fine remainder. Over days and weeks, the ash bed deepens. If left untouched, it would soften airflow and dull heat. A bone scraper appears in someone's hand, a shoulder blade tool, polished smooth by use. They work at the perimeter of the hearth. They do not disturb the center where the living coals breathe. They scrape the cold, spent ash from the outer ring. The sound is soft and repetitive. The scraping motion is steady. The ash moves in small amounts, pushed gently toward the edge. The ash is pale and powdery. It has given everything it can give. It moves into a designated pile. This pile will grow. It will be stepped on. It will become part of the cave floor, layer upon layer. The family lives on their own compressed days. Nothing changes quickly here. The worker exposes the center a little more. A deeper red appears. The embers glow. Air reaches the coals more easily. The fire responds, not with sudden change, but with steadiness. A log is adjusted. A stone on the hearth border is rotated and checked. Stones can split. Moisture inside can cause fracture if heated too quickly. So the stones are watched. They are tended like the fire itself. Someone rubs a pinch of ash across their hands. Dry soap. Grease lifts. Soot loosens. The ash falls back to the floor and disappears into the cave's sediment. The ash is a tool. The ash ring is not waste. It is a boundary. It is an architecture. It is the line between sleeping coals and open flame. It is the method by which the fire is controlled, day after day. Nothing changes quickly here. Smoke rises more cleanly now. The orange light steadies. The hearth is groomed. The morning becomes fully established. The routine continues. Another small amount of ash is moved, then another. The process is slow and methodical. The fire burns steadily. The fire burns. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. In the frozen landscape, water is not simply found, it is processed. It is mined from snow. Someone takes a skin vessel, not clay, not pottery, a cured membrane bag, tough and waterproof, smoked by many nights near the hearth. They move to the entrance. They step into the snow shadow where clean, drifted snow gathers. They scoop it in. The snow is light, mostly air. A great volume becomes a small amount of water. They return to the fire. They do not place the bag in the flames. Skin burns. Instead, stones are heated. Round stones rest in the coals, absorbing thermal energy slowly. The stone holds warmth. The person uses split green wood as tongs. They grip a hot stone. It glows with stored heat. They lower it into the bag of snow. Steam rises. The snow collapses into slush. The bag moves slightly as the structure changes. The person rocks the bag gently so the hot stone does not burn one spot. The stone cools quickly. They remove it. They return it to the coals. They take another hot stone. Steam rises again. The process continues. Snow melts. Water forms. Nothing changes quickly here. Steam adds humidity to the cave air. It softens the dryness of winter breathing. It makes the air feel less sharp. The work continues until the bag holds dark, slushy water. One more stone is added, not to melt, but to warm. The goal is gentle warmth, not heat. Warmth that enters the chest. Warmth that spreads through the stomach. Warmth that saves calories. Because eating snow directly steals heat. It forces the body to do work. So the fire does the work instead. The person pours a portion into a wooden bowl. The water is not clear. It holds mineral dust, a trace of ash. But it is life. It is warmth. It is drink. The bowl passes from hand to hand. No one speaks. Swallowing is slow. Breathing becomes easier. Breath in, breath out. The person checks the stones. Some have split under stress. Those are discarded into a corner. A growing pile of used stones. A record of repeated phase change. Heat, quench. Heat, quench. Nothing changes quickly here. The bag is refilled with snow. The stones are reheated. The steam rises again. Winter is processed into water again and again. The routine continues. The fire continues to heat the stones. The water continues to warm. The family continues to drink. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Fire warms the cave, but the body must warm itself too. In winter, fat is precious. Fat is fuel. Someone sits at a dedicated place away from bedding. A flat anvil stone, a heavy hammerstone. Before them, frozen long bones saved from autumn. They do not strike wildly. They rotate the bone. They find stress lines. They tap lightly and listen. Then they strike. The bone splits. Inside is marrow, dense calories, a pale cylinder of frozen fat. It is removed carefully, placed in a bowl. But the work continues. The spongy ends of the bone hold grease too. To get it, the structure must be crushed. The hammer rises and falls. The sound becomes rhythmic. The motion is steady and repetitive. The work is slow. Nothing changes quickly here. Crushed bone fragments are poured into hot water. The fat liquefies and rises. A thin layer of oil forms on the surface. It is skimmed, collected. It will harden when cool. It will be stored. It will be eaten. It will extend life through the darkest weeks. The broth remains, cloudy and warm, still nutritious. It is shared too. The cave fills with a heavy, savory scent. Not exciting, not sudden, just rich, just sustaining. The person pauses to stretch shoulders. Hands are greasy. They rub a little into worn leather, softening, waterproofing, preserving. The animal is used fully. Bone dust settles. It becomes part of the floor. It becomes part of the cave's layered record. Nothing changes quickly here. Another bone is selected. The process begins again. Rotation, tapping, striking. The hammer meets bone. The bone splits. Marrow is extracted. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. The fire burns. Nothing changes quickly here. In a corner where light is best, someone sits with flint. They work with stone. A stone that breaks cleanly when struck correctly. A stone that becomes an edge. They prepare the core. They grind a platform. The motion is slow and repetitive, stone against stone. The surface becomes flat and prepared. They turn the stone and examine angles. They tap and listen. A clear ring means solid stone. A dull rattle means a flaw. They breathe out. Breathe out. They relax the shoulder. They strike. The stone breaks. A flake detaches. A point appears. A shape made by preparation, not by force. The preparation takes long time. The creation happens in an instant. Nothing changes quickly here. The person inspects the new tool. Edges thin, sharp. They set it aside. They pick up an old tool, a scraper dulled by days of hide work. They retouch the edge. Small strikes, careful pressure. The edge is refined. Small microflakes fall. The edge returns. The sound is gentle, like a small clock. A child watches from a safe distance, not spoken to, not instructed, just watching, day after day, learning by absorption. The smell of struck flint is faint but distinct, sharp and mineral. It lingers briefly, then fades into smoke and fur and earth. Nothing changes quickly here. Tools accumulate slowly. A point, a scraper, a blade. Not many, just enough. Enough to keep a winter manageable. Enough to keep the system working. The work continues. Another platform is prepared. Another strike is made. Another flake falls away. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. If fire is active heat, hide is passive heat. The family wears skin, not woven cloth. Rawhide is stiff and cold, so it must be softened. Someone stands at a frame. A skin is stretched, hair side down. They use a long-handled tool fitted with stone. The motion is whole body, feet planted, core engaged. The tool moves across the hide. The motion is repetitive. The sound is rough and textured. The scraping continues, back and forth, steady and unhurried. The work is rhythmic. Dust rises. A musky scent fills the air. Not unpleasant, just biological. Nothing changes quickly here. The person pauses. They take a lump of stored grease. They rub it into the hide. Rub, scrape, rub, scrape. The fibers loosen. The hide darkens slightly. It becomes pliable. It begins to drape. This work takes days, not minutes, inch by inch. A slow transformation of animal into shelter. The tool dulls over time. Retouching begins. Small strikes against the edge. The blade is sharpened. The work resumes. The scraping continues. As long as the scraping continues, there will be boots. There will be wraps. There will be bedding. There will be warmth that follows the body outside the cave. Nothing changes quickly here. The person continues. The motion repeats. The hide becomes softer with each pass. The routine continues. The fire burns nearby. The work continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. The fire must eat. Wood must be gathered. Someone layers clothing. Soft hide beneath, thick fur above. Boots lined with dried grasses. They take a strap. They take a stone axe. They step across the threshold. The cold surrounds them immediately. Breath plumes white. Breath out. Snow compresses underfoot. The sound is soft and repetitive. Footsteps move through fresh snow. The world becomes quiet. The quiet makes the cave's warmth feel even more distinct. The person does not cut green wood. Green wood smokes and wastes heat. They look for dead standing trees and fallen limbs, gray wood, dry wood, stored sunlight. Nothing changes quickly here. They swing the axe. The axe meets wood. The sound is absorbed by snow. The frozen limb separates rather than cuts cleanly. They peel birch bark, thin strips, fire starter. They place it into a pouch. They bundle fuel. They lift it onto their back. The weight is awkward, but it is comforting. It is future warmth. They return. The smell of the fire reaches them before the light does. Smoke, warmth, familiar bodies, home. They drop the bundle near the entrance. Ice crystals melt. Water drips slowly. The wood begins drying immediately. A rotation is maintained. New wood at the entrance, partially dried wood deeper in, fully dried wood within easy reach of the hearth. This rotation never ends. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. Another day passes. Another gathering trip is made. Wood is brought back. The pile grows, then shrinks as wood is used, then grows again. The fire burns. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. In deep winter, when travel is reduced, refinements happen. Someone prepares birch bark for pitch making. They build a small, sealed pit away from the main fire. They heat bark without oxygen, not to burn, to distill. The process takes hours. Small sticks are added to the fire above. The heat must be steady, not too hot, not too cool. No rushing, no sudden change. Nothing changes quickly here. The person tends the small fire with patience. They add fuel slowly. They watch the smoke. They wait. Breath moves in and out. Breath in, breath out. Time passes without measure. When the fire dies, the pit is opened carefully. Inside is black, sticky tar, a material made by intention. The person smears tar onto a shaft notch, presses a stone point in, wraps with sinew. The bond sets as it cools. Wood and stone become one. A spear becomes reliable. The tar scent lingers, sharp, defining, but not overwhelming. Just another layer of the cave's smell. Smoke, fur, grease, stone, tar, earth. Nothing changes quickly here. The work is complete. The tool is set aside. Another shaft is prepared. The process begins again. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. As light fades outside, the fire must be prepared for night. This is ember preservation. Overnight, flame is less important than coal. Coals last. Coals hold. The embers glow. Someone selects dense wood, hardwood, pieces that will convert into a deep bed of coals. They settle, logs low, into the coal bed, not high into flame. They place them so they burn slowly from underneath. They reduce waste. They reduce smoke. They deepen heat. Ash is used again as a regulator. The ash is a tool. Not too much. Enough to slow oxygen. Enough to preserve thermal energy through long darkness. The fire changes character. Less dancing flame, more steady glow. This is correct. This is how night is survived. Nothing changes quickly here. The person watches. Ember preservation cannot be rushed. It takes time. It takes presence. The coal bed grows deeper, a hand's depth, more. The cave becomes a reservoir of stored heat. Stone absorbs warmth. The stone holds warmth. Sleeping stones recharge near the coals. The night watch will be easier because the preparation was done properly. The fire settles into its nighttime form, a warm presence, breathing slowly. The routine continues. Another pinch of ash is placed around the perimeter. The coals are banked carefully. The fire is ready for night. The fire burns. Nothing changes quickly here. Evening arrives fully. The darkness outside is complete. Inside, the hearth is the only sun. The family gathers close, not announced, not planned. It simply happens. Tools are set down, hides are folded, hands warm. Bodies turn slowly, front and back, sharing heat evenly. Silence lasts a long time. The silence is comfortable. There is no pressure to speak. The fire is enough. The fire burns. A log shifts slightly in the coals. Sparks rise briefly and fade. Eyes follow them, then return to the glow. The embers glow. Nothing changes quickly here. Sometimes someone speaks, not loudly, not quickly. A few words about the day, about wood, about snow, about the way wind moved at the entrance. Small facts, shared. Then silence again. An elder hums one low note. Not a song as modern people would name it, just a resonance, a vibration that fits the chamber. Others join softly. Breathing slows. Breath in, breath out. The group synchronizes without trying. Nothing changes quickly here. Sometimes a storyteller speaks. Not every night, but sometimes. Fragments of memory, a hunt long ago, a summer day, a place where good stone is found, a ridge where animals pass. No dramatic arc, just continuity. The words are quiet and sparse. They describe simple things. A berry patch, a fallen tree, a cold morning years ago. The memory is shared without urgency. Then the voice stops. Silence returns. A child leans against an adult and sleeps. The storyteller's voice becomes softer, then quieter, then stops entirely. The sound becomes part of the fire, part of the cave, part of the rhythm. The fire burns steadily. The fire burns. Nothing changes quickly here. Drowsiness spreads through the group. Eyelids grow heavy. Bodies relax further into their positions. The fire remains the center. Time passes without measure. Sleep begins. The watch will start soon. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. The days blend together. This is not disorienting. It is simply the nature of deep winter. Each day resembles the one before it. Each morning, embers are revealed. Each midday, wood is gathered or work is done by the hearth. Each evening, the fire is banked. Each night, the watch is kept. The snow outside deepens gradually, not in storms, but in steady accumulation. The valley becomes quieter, softer, more uniform. Inside the cave, the routines continue. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. On one morning, the fire is tended exactly as it was the morning before. Ash is swept aside. Embers are revealed. The embers glow. Kindling is added. Flames appear. Larger wood follows. The family wakes. Food is warmed. The day begins. On another morning, the same. Ash, embers, kindling, flames, wood. The family wakes. Food is warmed. The day begins. The repetition is not empty. It is reliable. It is safe. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. Midday arrives. Wood is gathered. Tools are maintained. The fire burns steadily. The fire burns. The next day, wood is gathered. Tools are maintained. The fire burns steadily. And the next, the same. The woodpile near the entrance grows, then shrinks as wood is used, then grows again as more is gathered. Evening comes. The fire is banked. The family gathers. Silence and soft words. Sleep. The watch begins. The next evening, the fire is banked. The family gathers. Silence and soft words. Sleep. The watch begins. And the next, the same. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. The nights are long. The watch shifts repeat. First watcher, second watcher, third watcher. The fire is never left alone. The routine continues. The moon waxes and wanes beyond the cave entrance, though it is often hidden by clouds. The family does not track its phases. Time is marked by the fire, by sleep and waking, by hunger and its satisfaction, by the depth of cold. The work continues. Days pass. Weeks pass. The concept of weeks does not exist for them. There is only the present, the routine, the fire. The fire burns. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. On some days, the weather is calm. On others, wind moves through the valley and snow falls more heavily. But inside the cave, the effect is minimal. The fire burns. The warmth holds. The routines continue. The routine continues. The family does not speak of time passing. They do not wonder when spring will come. Spring is not a concept that requires anticipation. It will come, or it will not. For now, there is winter, and winter is managed, one day at a time. The fire burns. Nothing changes quickly here. Outside, the weather shifts in gradients that are barely perceptible. The pressure drops. The wind changes tone. The air becomes denser. The snow surface begins to move in a thin skin of powder. The storm does not arrive suddenly. It arrives like a long exhale, gradually becomes louder. Outside, the pines begin to make sound. Outside, the valley begins to disappear behind moving white. But inside the cave, the air stays calm. The entrance faces away from the strongest winds. The ancestors learned this over countless seasons. They chose this shelter not for beauty, but for physics. They chose it because wind cannot enter directly. They chose it because smoke can still escape. They chose it because the limestone walls hold warmth and return it slowly. The stone holds warmth. Nothing changes quickly here. The storm presses at the mouth of the cave, but it cannot step fully inside. The fire flickers a little in sympathy with the pressure change, not violently, just slightly. A small pulse in flame behavior, a small shift in draft. Then steadiness returns. The fire burns. You may imagine the sound contrast. Outside, a deeper sound. Outside, a low rushing like distant water. Outside, snow particles tapping the rock face. Outside, occasional sound of frozen wood in the trees. Outside, the long, restless voice of the Ice Age. Inside, breathing. Breath in, breath out. Inside, soft sounds from the fire. Inside, the occasional sound of water on stone. Inside, the sound of ash management. Inside, low murmurs and then silence again. The contrast itself becomes soothing. The outside reminds the body why the inside is safe. The outside explains the inside without words. The inside becomes a shelter made of stone and habit. Nothing changes quickly here. As the storm continues, the family moves less. They conserve energy. They sit close. They reduce exposed skin. They reduce unnecessary motion. They eat slowly. They drink warm water slowly. They let the fire do more work, so their bodies do less work. The fire is a communal resource. The warmth is a communal resource. The wood is a communal resource. Everything is pooled. Everything is shared, because winter demands cooperation. Nothing changes quickly here. The storm passes, not quickly, but in its own time. The sound becomes less. The sound becomes a whisper. The whisper becomes quiet again. And inside the cave, almost nothing has changed. The ash pile is slightly larger. The wood pile is slightly smaller. The stone walls have taken in another day of heat and released another night of warmth. The stone holds warmth. Deep time continues as it always has. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Return again to the sleeping stones. These are not special stones. They are ordinary river rocks. But in winter, ordinary tools become important through repetition and necessity. A stone placed near coals becomes a battery. It stores heat invisibly inside its mass. It holds warmth in silence. When moved near a sleeper, it offers gentle comfort. It is not a flame. It does not flicker. It does not demand attention. It simply radiates until it cools again. The stone holds warmth. A watcher nudges one with a branch and judges it by feel. This is knowledge embedded in the skin. The watcher knows what feels right. They know the heat by intuition. Because this has been done so many times that the body remembers without thinking. Nothing changes quickly here. In the night, the stones are placed at the edges of the coal bed, where heat is steady and not overly intense. By morning, they are warm enough to help, but not so hot they burn fur or skin. The stones may be rotated as well. One stone moves closer, another moves farther. The system is always balancing. Heat and fuel. Heat and oxygen. Heat and time. The cave itself is a battery too. The limestone walls absorb heat during the day when the fire is stronger. They release it at night when the fire is banked. This is why the interior feels stable. It is why the air near the ceiling stays warm even when the floor is cool. It is why the group can survive long darkness without burning through their entire wood supply in one night. The stone holds warmth. The cave is not just a shelter. It is a thermal machine, carved by water and improved by habit. Nothing changes quickly here. You can imagine the sensation of leaning your back against warmed stone. You can imagine the stone not hot, just pleasantly warm, like a sun-warmed rock in summer, but softer, more muted. You can imagine the way this warmth does not pulse like flame does. It is constant. It is slow. It is dependable. This is the kind of warmth your nervous system likes. Your body trusts steady warmth. It relaxes into it. Nothing changes quickly here. Sound shapes sleep. The cave creates a soundscape that is both protective and predictable. The porous limestone dampens sharp noise. Firs dampen even more. The chamber holds low tones and softens edges. The fire adds a low shifting sound, almost like a quiet animal breathing. The coals sometimes settle with a tiny sound. The ash scraper makes a steady sound. The water drop makes an intermittent sound. These sounds are not warnings. They are markers. They are gentle anchors. Sleep loves anchors. Nothing changes quickly here. A chorus of breathing is the deepest anchor. 6, 7, 8 bodies breathing slowly together. Each breath is a reassurance signal. Each exhale says, "The group is here. The group is safe. The group is warm enough." Breath in, breath out. The breathing also invites your own breathing to slow. You can let your breath slow. Breath in, breath out. You can inhale gently and exhale longer. You can imagine you are lying among the firs, the warmth near your face, the air slightly humid from steam, the smoke drawn away by draft so it does not sting. You can imagine the smell: wood smoke, resin, faint animal musk, clean ash, stone dust, tar in the background, like a distant sharp note. You can imagine the sound of wind outside, but muffled, as if the world has been padded. Nothing changes quickly here. A child sighs and settles. An adult shifts and then becomes still again. A hide makes a soft sound as weight changes. Then stillness returns. The cave is a shelter of stone and habit. You can rest in the predictable repetition of these sounds. Nothing needs to happen quickly for you to be safe. Nothing needs to change quickly for you to sleep. Nothing changes quickly here. Return again to water, not as a simple drink, but as a daily transformation of matter. The winter locks water into ice. The fire unlocks it. The skin bag holds snow that is mostly air. The hot stones collapse the structure of the snow into slush and then water. Steam rises and adds humidity to the cave air. This humidity is a subtle comfort. The dry cold outside can irritate throats. Inside, steam softens breathing. It makes each inhale less sharp. It makes the breathing feel less scraped by cold air. Breath in, breath out. The person who makes water knows this without naming it. They simply repeat what works. Steam rises like a slow presence, rocking the bag so the stone does not burn one place, removing the stone when it cools, replacing it with another. This is patience. This is survival as a ritual. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. The water becomes warm enough to save calories. The warmth in the bowl spreads through the chest and stomach and makes fingers feel less stiff. The bowl passes hand to hand. Silence holds. Only swallowing, only breath. Breath in, breath out. Only the soft fire. The fire burns. Even this simple act becomes meditative, because it repeats and because it is slow. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Return again to bone and fat. In deep winter, lean meat is not enough. Fat carries the dense energy that keeps bodies from freezing. Fat is the hidden currency of the Ice Age. The person who breaks bone works at a dedicated place because order prevents accidents. They rotate the bone. They tap lightly. They listen. They strike cleanly. The marrow comes free, solid, frozen, heavy with calories. Then the crushing begins. Rhythm, not violence. Rhythm, not anger. A steady percussion of provisioning. The fragments go into hot water. Fat rises like a thin golden skin on the surface. It is skimmed slowly. It is stored carefully. It will harden and become portable energy. It will be eaten in small amounts because even fat is precious and must be rationed. Nothing changes quickly here. The smell is rich. It fills the cave. Not exciting, just sustaining. It tells the nervous system, we have fuel. This smell alone can reduce anxiety because it signals resources. It signals tomorrow exists. The grease left on hands becomes a protective layer, rubbed into leather to waterproof and soften. Bone dust settles into the cave floor and joins the ash strata. This floor is a record of survival. Each thin layer says, another day maintained, another winter endured. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Return again to stone shaping, not as a dramatic crafting scene, but as a slow mental rhythm. The person who shapes stone sits where light is best. They prepare platforms. They work edges. They tap and listen. They strike at the right angle with relaxed shoulder. Each successful flake release is a small, clean sound. A brief ring, then silence again. The work is partly physics and partly calm. The person cannot be tense. Tense muscles lead to mistakes. So they breathe out. Breathe out. Relax. Shoulders loose. Pressure steady. Flow state arrives without being named. The child watches, learning not only technique, but patience. Learning that the important part is preparation. The long, slow setup that makes the final moment easy. Nothing changes quickly here. This is also a lesson for sleep. The long, slow setup makes the final drift easy. You do not force sleep. You prepare conditions and let sleep arrive. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Return again to hide work because it is one of the most repetitive tasks, and repetition is soothing. The frame stands steady. The hide is stretched. The tool moves back and forth. The sound is rough but consistent. The motion is whole body but unhurried. Grease is applied. Rub, scrape. Rub, scrape. The fibers loosen slowly. The hide darkens and becomes pliable. The transformation takes days. This slowness teaches the group to accept gradual change. It teaches the nervous system that progress can be invisible moment to moment, but real over time. In sleep, nothing changes quickly either. You do not feel the exact moment you fall asleep. You only notice in time that you are already in it. Nothing changes quickly here. The scraping continues, steady like rain on a roof, steady like waves far away, steady like something that does not demand attention. You can let this imagined sound smooth out the sharp edges of your thoughts. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Return again to the outside trip, because the contrast helps the mind let go. The person who gathers fuel, layers clothing, and steps outside. The cold surrounds them. Breath becomes white. Breathe out. Snow compresses underfoot in dry cold. The world is quiet in a special way because snow absorbs sound. Everything feels distant and muted. They seek dead standing wood, stored sunlight, dry fuel. They work the stone axe. The sound is absorbed by snow. They peel birch bark and store it carefully. This bark is the guarantee of ignition, quiet insurance. The bundle of wood is strapped and carried back. The weight is awkward but comforting because it is future heat. Then the moment of returning happens. The smell of smoke reaches them before light does. Smoke means people. Smoke means continuity. Smoke means inside. The threshold is crossed again. Wind drops away. Warmth appears. They settle near the fire, hands near the flames. The fire burns. Nothing changes quickly here. The woodpile is replenished. The system remains stable. The mind can rest when systems remain stable. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Return again to pitch making because it is slow chemistry, one of the earliest examples of deliberate transformation beyond simple cooking. Birch bark is heated without oxygen. It does not burn. It distills. It becomes black tar. The person making pitch must keep the heat steady, not too hot, not too cool. They feed the small fire with patience. The hours pass. They watch smoke, smell ground, wait. Time passes without measure. When the pit is opened, the black, sticky tar is revealed, a substance made by intention. Stone and wood are joined. Sinew is wrapped. Tar cools and sets. This is reliability, created from time and care. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. The smell is sharp and defining. It lingers, and then becomes just another layer of the cave's constant scent. Smoke, fur, grease, stone, tar, earth. These smells do not demand attention. They form a stable environment. Stability invites sleep. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Evening again. The work is done. Food is eaten. The group gathers close. This is the time for the mind. There is no writing. There is only voice and memory. An elder hums a low, resonant tone. It fits the chamber. It vibrates softly in the ribs of listeners. Others join. It is not a modern song. It is a communal resonance. It synchronizes breathing. Breath in, breath out. It lowers heart rate. It turns separate bodies into one slow field of warmth. Then the storyteller speaks. Not loudly, not quickly. Fragments of memory. A ridge where animals pass. A place where good stone is found. A summer day when berries were abundant. No dramatic arc, just continuity, just identity. We are the people of the fire. We are the people who know the ash ring. The ash is a tool. We are the people who bank coals. We are the people who turn snow into water. We are the people who turn bone into grease. We are the people who sharpen stone and soften hide. We are the people who keep the ember alive. The embers glow. Nothing changes quickly here. The repetition is the point. It assures the group that tomorrow will resemble today, and that resemblance is safety. You can let that same reassurance settle into your own nervous system. Tomorrow can be similar without being threatening. Sameness can be restful. The voice fades. The humming returns softer. Children sleep first. Adults drift after. The watch begins again. The routine continues. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. Now you return to the embers again. You are back at the beginning. The cave is quiet. The breathing is rhythmic. Breath in, breath out. The fire is a bed of glowing coals. The embers glow. You have lived the loop. You have seen the ash, the water, bone, the stone, the hide, the wood, the tar, and the story. Nothing changes quickly here, and that is good. In a world of ice, speed is not survival. Slowness is life. The fire burns slowly. The fire burns. The heart beats slowly. The winter passes slowly. Time passes without measure. You settle into warmth. The stone floor is hard but familiar. The smell of wood smoke becomes the smell of peace. Draft pulls gently at smoke, carrying it up and away. You watch the embers pulse, glow, dim, glow, dim. The embers glow. You do not have to do anything. You do not have to keep watch. The watchers exist in the story, so you can rest in the safety they maintain. You are safe. You are warm. You are here, in deep time, and you can rest. The night watch continues. The fire will be here. The fire burns. Nothing changes quickly here. Sleep. The embers glow. The stone holds warmth. The ash is a tool. Breath in, breath out. The routine continues. Nothing changes quickly here. The fire burns. Time passes without measure. Nothing changes quickly here. The fire burns. It has been burning for days, for weeks, for time beyond counting. The flames are orange and yellow, with occasional flickers of blue at the base where the heat is most intense. The wood makes soft sounds as it releases its stored energy. Smoke rises and follows the curve of the ceiling toward the entrance, where it finds the cold air and disperses into the valley. Inside the cave, warmth holds. The fire is steady and familiar. The flames move in predictable ways, consuming fuel, producing heat, creating light. There is nothing unusual about this fire. It looks like yesterday's fire, and the fire from the day before that, and the fire from countless days before those. Nothing changes quickly here.